connection timed out. Go live.
It says over here, this meeting is being live streamed.
Yeah.
By staying in this meeting, you consent to.
So right before we went live, these two were saying some really mean things about someone we know.
Such a lie. You lie.
My heart is filled with hatred, so.
I always say, like, I don't know.
One in the pink, two in the stink?
No.
I thought it was the other way.
It is.
Oh.
It's just funny.
I always
going with the modern trend.
I always say, I don't know, like it just depends on what it comes from, but I sent an email the other day to one of the kindergarten teachers and I was like, this is because I want the kindergartners to perform on the last day of school for their parents. I don't know what I said, but I said something like, it'll be a nightmare, but perhaps my cold, dark glass heart will be into it the day of. They're really doing a good job though. And they're excited about it.
What do your fellow teachers say when you say stuff like that? I mean, do they like get the humor or are they like?
No, they get it. So I'm like the new teacher. My partner and I are the new teacher liaisons. So any question like a new teacher has, they come to us. And the beginning of the year, we have like an orientation, so like while everyone else's first day back might be the Monday, the third Monday in August, we actually have to come back the Friday before and we have a luncheon and, we go through like common questions about, what will you encounter? Here are the most important things that you need to remember, blah, 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 blah. Right. So last year when we came back, so this is now 2 full years ago, when we came back, I was wearing one of the shields and everything, and I was like, so here's the deal. I was like, I'm going to answer all your data questions. I'm going to be the one to come to you with computer issues, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be the one that, that you will come to for all of your deadline needs. And Brian says, and I will be the one that you can come to if you need a shoulder to cry on. And I said, don't do that to me because I won't be available. I said, I am not the touchy-feely type and I just want to get things done, blah, blah, blah. Well, people that know me know that that's not true. And most people,
I was just going to say, those are such lies.
Most of the people in the session, would laugh and they're like, oh my God, that's so funny. She makes us feel a little more comfortable. Well, I guess one girl took it so hard. She made a point to ignore me the entire school year. And I talked to the girl she worked with closely. I said, no, she was rude. She goes, do you know why? I learned this 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Because you were being a bitch and she didn't know. You got to be able to sell the humor.
Yeah. That's the thing with humor is like it's innately risky.
It is. You gotta commit. Yeah, to the hate.
I love I said, one time I said, I like that top. And she looked at me and she turned and walked away. I am not exaggerating at all. Like she actually, and I was like, and what the fuck?
Yeah, when you're in the cafeteria, you just spill something on it and be like, oh, now that top's ugly, bitch.
Oh. So, but what I actually really, really love is like the kids who I've had since like first grade or kindergarten, and they're now in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And they have that humor and they can, they can take it and then they can dish it. You know, like I had a third grader get in the car the other day and said, "Bye, principal." And I was like, "What am I, chopped liver?" And he was like, "Yup." So awesome.
I teach
But-
the anti-sarcasm. We're so different. Anyway, welcome. Today's topic is, what's today's topic?
Sobriety or recovery.
Being a bitch in sobriety and how we get away with it. Well, this is how.
Innocent bystander.
Yeah.
Come on our gossip rag podcast. Let's go. I'm watching the Johnny Depp trial, and one of the guys is like, "Are you talking about the Sun, the tabloid out of London?" They were like, "Well, regardless, it was a published article." That's our show. That's we're gonna be on a trial one day, and they're gonna go, "Are you talking about
It's okay to laugh.
those
Yeah.
bitches? Those bitches who
And that Brian,
That
bitches
weird-
and the Brian.
That strange
Oh
person.
my God, Brian and the bitches. That's got to be something.
It came out of your
Oh.
mouth, not mine. So
Well,
Yeah, it came out of my mouth.
Brian and the bitches should be the night that
music
we
group?
do our we want to do a night where we have several people in and we're all playing each other.
Meaning like acting, like we all, you know.
Like I would be Rachel, like
You act like it's so easy to be me. Just because you see me.
I need some
Make the,
man.
you know that
more
was
than just-
spot on.
I'm
That
more- Is it?
P in the V. P in the V. I better put
Damn
my
it,
phone on
V.
silent.
I think I was at like 6 months at the point that we were recording that one. And I remember I was like, I don't really know what to say right now.
P in the V. P in the V.
I'm not shy.
So sobriety or recovery. I've actually heard that used, however vaguely, in many meetings, but I've latched on to that. You know, what is the difference between sobriety and recovery?
Hmm.
I think I shared on it the other day too.
Well,
And-
introduce yourself, you hoe.
Oh, I'm Leslie. I'm an alcoholic.
I'm Rachel. I'm an alcoholic.
I'm Brian, and well, I have to be in these classes.
Am I gonna get credit for this?
I do really like, though, when it's clear that they have no intention of stopping drinking. And
Yeah.
the person will be like, okay, well, do you have a desire not to drink? And they're like,
I don't have a problem with alcohol.
not really.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, okay, fine, you can stay, whatever. And it's like, yeah, sure. Why don't you just hand them some liquor? Like,
Stop.
AA meeting. Like, come on.
No, I love that when they're like, the only reason I'm here is because I need attendance, so I'm here to share. And I'm like, you don't have to share. You don't have to share. If you're not an alcoholic, you don't have to share. If you just need to be in the class,
Yeah.
I
you're not.
want to be like,
required share.
oh, this isn't the one. It's the one that's down the hall.
Oh!
That one. That's
Down the
class.
hall. Yeah, really. Well, I think
Oh.
technically aren't the ITR meetings open meetings? That's how they're, yeah. So
Except for the gender-based ones, those are considered closed,
those
and
are
they're
closed.
they're
I had no
actually-
idea. I couldn't get into it the other day. I was like, why am I not allowed in?
Yeah, they're coded to what you've chosen on your gender.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, because I could get in before.
yeah.
Were people confused by my gender and then they figured it out?
No, because you have female marked, and we ran a new code on the website that says
Ugh.
they have to be marked to this gender to get into the meeting. So they can be transgender male, they can be transgender female, or male, female, because it was a problem in the women's meetings, especially.
Yeah, I bet it was.
So
It is. I constantly have to kick out penises.
oh, and
That's
if it's not specified, they can't get into any of them.
Okay.
I mean,
Anyway,
that's the way it's supposed to work. There have been some kinks
That's true.
that are still being worked out.
I bet there are.
Yeah. You want some kinks worked out, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Stuff.
We watched the best movie the other night called The Lost City.
Who are you
so
watching
good.
it with the BF on
Yep.
over? How do you do that? How do you?
I watched that.
We've tried a couple times to do it via Zoom, and he was enraged because there's a
Yeah.
lag.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be really, yeah.
I remember one night I was like, "What about your movie?" He was like, "I'm never watching a movie that way again, and I'm not sitting here on the phone with you while we watch it together." So what we do now is we get on the phone, we say, "Okay, I'm at 5 seconds in." So we both pause it, then we say, "Ready, set, go." And then we text each other, pause,
Ooh.
whatever.
It's like some manual overdrive right there.
And then I'm allowed to text during the movies we watch together if it's funny or if it's it's so funny because he does this hypocritical thing on purpose to be funny. He'll be like, "Don't text me during my movie," and then he'll text me like 5 seconds later, "Oh, that was so awesome."
So you guys are on the phone?
No.
Oh, you're not on the phone. Oh,
Right.
Okay. So you're just okay. All right.
Yeah. We're just texting each other.
There you go.
What is she doing? Is she going to the bathroom?
I don't know.
No, I'm making a peanut butter jelly. You guys can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my son needs to it.
But it sounds like you're in the bathroom.
No, I'm in the kitchen.
Oh.
I'm in my
Wow.
lovely kitchen.
I can't believe your voice is carrying that far.
Well, I have headphones on.
It's really clear. But I don't think your sound is coming through your headphones.
Yes, it is.
So, I actually had something to talk about that
Let's
you guys.
do that.
We can get back on topic here.
On the note of specialty meetings, this has come up actually a couple times now. I did broach this with Steven, and he told me that it wouldn't be possible because GSAA doesn't do specialty meetings. A young person's meeting, I feel like, would be something that ITR could easily, accommodate. There's at least 15 probably people I can.
So what you would do is you would write your proposal and take it to the owners.
Yeah.
And then you would pay rent like anyone else.
So what is it? Do you know what it comes down to? Is it like, I've heard it's about $50 a month?
No, it's $10 a meeting, depending on how many meetings you have. I think you pay like a flat fee, no matter what.
Yeah.
And then if you have any more than that, it's like $10 a meeting or something, because it really takes a lot of bandwidth. And if you think of us housing 400 members in one meeting, 69 times a week, and that fluctuates.
Yeah.
Let's say we're averaging 250 members.
Yeah.
Every meeting. I mean, that's a shit ton of bandwidth.
And I always go over, so like always.
I watch that clock like, okay, we're done. Click.
You just hear about that from like Steven and people, or how does that work? If you go over, somebody comes. No, nobody. No,
I don't.
No,
not
if
me.
it was a problem, we would address it.
I just give them the old nip slip and they're fine.
Shut up. Hi, Brenda. Welcome to our show. Okay, so let's bring this back around to our topic. Sobriety or recovery. Now, Dr. Powerfulman, what does sobriety mean to you?
Well, to me, it's like so, Bry,
Ity.
ITY. No.
ETY.
In reality, let's see. To me, sobriety, honestly, one of the first thoughts I have is the literal meaning of sober, other than alcohol free,
Okay.
like sober minded. So I just Googled define sober. First one's adjective, not affected by alcohol, not drunk. But a sober minded person is clear-headed, quiet or sedate in demeanor, marked by seriousness, gravity. In other words, like that, you basically have. I'm not trying to make this like an all-encompassing definition. I'm just kind of speaking to my own thoughts here. As far as like taking life a little more, I don't know. I was talking about this in the meeting last night, actually, that Rachel was chairing, as far as this basic idea of like kind of taking life and being like, the hard things are what they are, and you have to just deal with them. And they're part of everyone's life. And I feel like there is some kind of, maybe it's just my own experience, but there is like this, I feel like in society in general right now, especially, we're being bombarded with this basic like idea that your life should be this like wonderful party, and if it's not, that you're doing it wrong, and you're like you're not living right if you're not, if your life isn't just like this stress-free, or what, whatever you want to call it, like live your dreams, like that's what you're supposed to do. And it's just not. To call that naivete would be far too what would you say,
Pragmatic, simple.
Like that, like to me that's just, it's just not true. Like that's just not how, in my basic experience of in life, that like the amount of people who are able to like live their dreams, like to be like, I want to be a recording artist, whatever, right? And then they go at it, they try for a long time, like, and say they're very talented. They achieve like some success, but they're never able to get the like outward recognition that's going to allow them to have that be their actual source of income or occupational status, right? And they either, depending on their mindset, are going to do it for why they actually enjoy doing it, or they're going to give up on it because they've bought into this false kind of idea of like, like that your life should be this kind of like display of wealth and power or something if you're a successful person.
Well, it should.
And as Dr. Powerfulman, I'm here to tell you that I refuse to do either. And I'm going to just make everything difficult for this podcast, for people who encounter me in meetings, and especially for general concepts. I'm just going to make them really, really unclear.
That sounds like someone in recovery who's not sober. So half the group.
What does sobriety mean to you, Rachel?
Being such a jackass today. Well, sobriety for me means just what it is, like just being sober. But I just feel like there's different parts of that. Like a recovery is the action part of sobriety that you're working towards.
We're only on sobriety.
Well,
you can't all run 100 miles an hour, Rachel. Our minds.
So yeah, that's like the first part, kind of like the first 3 steps. And what you choose, or I guess for me, like what I choose to do with that, you know, like being sober on my own I didn't get as much as when I listened to others and what sobriety is and means for them. But even if you don't want to talk about recovery right now, there still is the action part of everything. And having a sober mind and a spirit is important. Like I've noticed myself, I'm a lot calmer, more peaceful. I take time to actually say things instead of just spewing it all out. I mean, it still happens because I get excited, but it used to be really bad. I used to have really, really bad anxiety all the time. So I just felt like I had to get everything out. And I didn't realize that that was part of still being not addicted, but it wasn't a sober mindset. Because the drink really, for me, is easier to give up than being emotionally sober. So that's what I have.
I mean, so that's Dr. Powerfulman was focusing more on mental sobriety, and you're saying physical sobriety. And I think for me, when I hear sober, I hear physically. Physically, I am not drinking, using, whatever.
I associate that with dry. That's the word that I think of.
Yes,
like,
me
it's
too.
like sober to me is like somebody who's truly sober is like they're working a program. But
so when I hear people say I've been sober 10 days, I mean, that's a huge thing that we need to celebrate. However, I really don't think true mental sobriety comes until a little bit of time for your brain cells to get back together.
Absolutely. And that's when the recovery kicks in.
And so you must put down the drink. You must get physically sober before I think you can start a program of recovery. Going to AA meetings is not a program of recovery.
Right.
It's part of it. And it's a huge piece of how you navigate dealing with others, finding the people you connect to that will then help you into your life of recovery. But, I think we've talked about this before where, and people say this a lot. Just because I'm in church does not make me a good person. Just because I go to church on Sunday mornings and I fellowship with people who are Christians, that does not make me a Christian. And so just because, and we laughed about it on Saturday night that, we can say, or we laughed about it just as we were starting now, where people are like, well, yeah, I'm here for this class. Great. You're here for a class and you're trying not to drink. I still don't even associate that with being sober. Okay. I agree more with what Brian's saying. A sober mindset is serene, but I don't think a sober mindset can come without a program of recovery. I can be physically away from a substance, but that does not make me sober. And Rachel, you said emotionally. That's the kicker. That's what launches us into recovery. Because we've proven to ourselves that we haven't had a drink in the past 6 months. Now what? What's the point of stopping drinking?
Yep.
Why did we stop? I liked drinking. And I probably would like it tonight if I chose to go out and do it. But I love being clear-headed, not being in panic, not worrying about whatever. And that's where recovery is.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, because as we hear so often in the program, we don't have a drinking disease as much as a thinking disease. And that really, to me, Jesus actually says in the gospel something like that it's what's already in your heart. It's not what goes into the body, it's what's already there, essentially. Like, I mean, and that if you look at people who are real alcoholics, how is it described in the big book? But what about the real alcoholic? Like he's your
number
actual
one, number two, number three, number four, right? When they're describing the 4 types.
The paragraph, I think it's, page 23? I want to say it's more about alcoholism.
Yeah, it is more about alcoholism.
He's your classic Jekyll and Hyde. He's rarely mildly
21.
intoxicated. He is almost always
So you want me to read it?
insanely drunk. Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is page 21. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. Here's a fellow who has been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. He does absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking. He is a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He is seldom mildly intoxicated. He is always more or less insanely drunk. His disposition while drinking resembles his normal nature, but little.
A little, yeah. So that, to me, is right there. What you have that's your evidence of somebody who has this spiritual malady, whatever you choose to call the actual, like, real core aspect of the illness that is either, like, if you're not going to go that far, heavily mental or just spiritual, in that there's something that's in you that needs to be rectified by spiritual measures. That occurs in the step work, right? That's where the recovery actually is happening. Because if you take somebody who does not have this going on and give them that much alcohol, they will not do insane, tragic things.
I get what you're saying.
What I'm right. So, like, there's something already there. And that thing is, like, however you choose to look at it, but it needs to be, that's the part of us that needs to be, that's the part of us that needs a 4th step. You know, that's the part of us that needs the higher power, like, because it's not just able to get along with the rest of society. It's always going to find itself have a drink, and it's like, what starts to happen? It starts to kind of growl and, like, get its, because it's no longer inhibited by a sober mind. So to me, it's like, if you don't start to treat that with some kind of a program, however you approach your 12-step program, dude, I mean, I don't care if you want to do smart recovery or whatever it is, like, but you got to dig into yourself and you got to say, why was I doing this? Like, in some way where you're being honest and saying, like, is it possible that I am the problem? That, to me, is real sobriety. Yeah. And the difference between people, I think, who are truly sober and truly, like, in recovery and living that life, they really are happy, joyous, and free. There are a number of people on ITR who I do admire for, people who have been sober for a long period of time, who I can see that in, and people who they share, like, they're undergoing things all the time, but it doesn't change their basic means of handling life. And then there are some people on the website who claim also long periods of sobriety, and I'm like, that person's not sober though.
Right.
Like, they might be dry, but that person is almost always offensive, loud, etc.
Are you talking about me?
Yes, that's why I'm on here today. I've finally come.
This is an intervention.
Leslie. That's why Rachel and I
are loud, and we don't.
That's why we're on either side of you. We had to take you to sober jail.
I get
Yeah,
what
you
you're
get locked up.
saying. Or they are offended by everything. I think that to me is the kicker. Something is always wrong. Something is always someone else's fault. Something is something they have to fix. And I see that because I can easily go there. I could easily be one of those old people that say it's this way or no way. You know, I mean, I had set a topic for my Tuesday night meeting, which I have since given up because it's just not working. And it's not fair that I'm getting a sub every week, you know, and I know I'm not going to be available the next 3 weeks. And so I had already set a topic.
What were you doing?
Tuesdays. I had just taken over the Tuesdays at 6, and then I couldn't sit in a chair. Wait, what was he saying? What did you say? What joke did you make that I missed?
I just asked which one you were hosting.
I just laugh at Brian.
Anyway, but I had set a topic that said, what would you tell your 10-year-old self?
Fuck you.
RuPaul does this thing where he makes his contestants talk to their between 3 and 6 years old. You know, what would you say to this person? And, you know, it's like, well, I would say, don't start drinking. I would say, don't take everything so goddamn seriously, you know, those types of things. And so I thought that would be a great meeting topic.
That would be a great meeting topic. We'll do it now. So what would you say?
Hold on.
Be serious.
So the guy that subbed my meeting kept the topic. He said it was so good. He said some of them brought me to tears.
What a stealer.
But I did get a negative comment, and someone wrote on his profile, what kind of new age bullshit topic is this?
Oh my gosh.
And this guy has been sober 30 years. Like, what is actually wrong with people?
Right.
I bet
that's kind of, to me, it's like it's just the way that you approach just the lack of respect. It's the lack of respect that you allot other people, especially those who are also attempting to work some kind of a program in active sobriety. And if that's how you feel about it, well, there is a far more reasonable, civil, and helpful way to approach bringing that about. Because that response tells you that person felt as if that person has some kind of sense of ownership over what can be discussed in an AA meeting. At all.
The way I approach setting a topic for a meeting is I want new people to feel like they could contribute something to this topic. But also the long timers, as our friend Karen would call them, instead of old timers, because it has a negative connotation. Something that they can say, yes, this is what this program is about. But then the newcomer can come up and say, yeah, I would change a lot of things that I did. And maybe that brings them to the point of going, I do have a problem that I need to work out very quickly. That's how I approach topic of a meeting. So would I bring up what would you tell your 10-year-old self in a face-to-face meeting? Abso-fucking-lutely I would. Because I think everyone can contribute to that. So, okay, what would I tell my 10-year-old self? I would say, don't worry about how you look to other people. Looks aren't everything. And that doesn't determine where your confidence comes from.
Where's the 10-year-old self receiving this? Like, is this like they're like getting ready for bed and all of a sudden like you're ghastly astral form of yours.
I think that possibly maybe they're getting dressed for the last day of school.
Okay. I like it. No, I like that. That's
or
good.
maybe the first day of school.
Okay. So it's like something they could actually like a point in time where you're actually able to like say something to that person to hopefully like cause them to maybe not act out some of the
tragedies
within. So to kind of alter that course.
Don't be so quick to impress boys. I think a lot of women would maybe say that to themselves. Don't be so quick to take every compliment as truth or every insult as truth.
Okay, I see what you're
be
saying.
yourself fully, but learn when it's appropriate to say certain things and when it's not. You know, be kind to your mother when you're 15 years old. You're going to go through a lot. So don't get so upset when they call you out on your shit, because you look back now at 40 years old and you know they were the best damn parents ever and still are. Be kind to your sister. Your sister looks up to you. Don't negate her attention. Don't turn her away. Don't make her feel self-conscious in your self-consciousness of trying to be cool with your friends. Don't take control of every situation. And
would the younger self be taking notes on this? Because you're getting going.
Yeah.
Knowing
myself, yes.
So this sounds to me though like a really like it's kind of serving as like a recollection of what you've learned about yourself that you could still apply in a large part to your present self moving forward.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
It's a form of therapy too.
Okay, Rachel, what would you say?
Well, I'd have to increase the age a little bit because I don't think I had a lot of issues until I was about 12 or 13.
Okay.
But
so the point is you want to catch yourself before the issues begin. That was the point. You know, I was thinking most people at 10 years old are still kind of innocent. They're still in elementary school.
I was innocent for a long time. Well, maybe like, I don't know. I mean, there's so many points. I guess we could stick with 10, but I just...
Before puberty, how about that?
Okay, well, I had boobs in like 4th grade, but I did.
I didn't.
I had an A cup immediately.
My mom and sister have teased me about it my entire life.
I can't wait. I have to have 3. Well,
I'm still waiting I'm still waiting for those pews to come in.
That sexy mane of man pube.
Yeah. Still waiting for my voice to drop.
All right, but yeah, whatever age you want to go to, Rach. That you feel would be the most impactful.
Probably like 15, honestly. Although middle school is pretty rough for me. So I guess I would tell myself, I don't know. I feel like I'm working on this like currently because I've been really, I have not wanted to finish my 4th step, which is probably why I'm feeling like sarcastic because I've been very antsy today, actually. I would probably tell myself that I'm worth it, that to not listen to the mean things that people would say to me every day. I was bullied for an entire year pretty badly. And like a gang of boys in front of a teacher every day, like no one did anything. And to not believe that, you know, my looks are important to me now because of a lot of those comments still, and I'm 38. to know that what happened to me when I was younger was not my fault. And I would just tell myself to, like, I don't know, it's hard to say because I was so little, like, this sounds bad. I would say go find a new family, probably.
Ooh.
Make your own family, you mean? Like,
yeah, I always felt rejected. I was very different. I was very, like, I'm eclectic. I would just tell myself, I think, like, all the things I wanted to hear, that I'm worthy, I'm enough, I'm beautiful, I am good enough to go all the way. I could have been a famous musician if I wanted to. I didn't need anyone's approval. I didn't need any boys, like, glances, because when I first got them, I think it was beyond that, oh, as a boy it's exciting. I think it was also, that's a dog, because I wasn't getting what I need at home. I would have told myself, don't starve yourself because someone called you fat once.
Mm.
And also continued, every day through middle school for an entire year. It was a really rough 7th grade. This shit's bringing up a lot of shit. Yeah, I think,
well, it's a bullshit recovery AA topic. So
I thought you said it was new age.
New age bullshit.
No, it's important though. This is good for me, and I have comments on that too because I like new age.
Age of Aquarius.
No, the dawning of. I would say that I am funny and I don't need anyone's approval. I will rule the world. Like, I started saying that in my 30s, but if I would have known it younger, it would have been better. I still think I'm more than I show, and I really wish I would have known that then, and that I have a huge heart, and I have a lot to give, and to not let people take advantage of that. Because through that, I also allow people to take advantage of my body. And I would have tried to stop that early on, because I think it really would have helped me lessen some of the confusion and some of the problems. And maybe, I mean, I can't say I wouldn't have started drinking alcoholically or not, but it might have, I don't know, and yeah, it is harsh to say I'd have a new family. And I love them. I don't think they ever watch, so it doesn't matter, but I also need support, and it's not easy seeing the truth sometimes. It's not.
Well, that I can tell you is probably a huge part of your inventory. A resentment towards your immediate family.
Yeah, I just don't want to look at it. I just I just feel rejected. And the thing is like, I'm still that 15-year-old. I'm not over it. So I could say that, but I'm stuck in it right now. So it's like, yeah, it sucks.
Rajan?
What?
Have you been paying attention?
Yeah, I have actually. I've been listening. I have. It's a lot. It's a very deep thing because, like, I actually don't really know how to answer the question, because I'm like, well, but then if I say that, does that, how does
that say about you now?
Well, it's more like, then I'd be creating some person who doesn't exist.
You don't have to get metaphysical.
I know. I
think it's more of staying. It's the practice of, like, healing what you couldn't heal. It's actual, right, like, shadow work. Like,
no, I understand. Trust. I can understand why somebody who's more old school would be like, burr, burr. And I wanted to say that for me, let's see. I'm going to share my screen.
I think I have to allow you.
How do I,
Go ahead.
if I want to share a video, like a YouTube video?
Now you can.
How do I do it though? Should I just
share screen, and then you can share your tab?
Okay, share this tab.
And make sure you click share sound, and optimize for video.
Video clip. Okay. All right. You guys can see this.
Yes.
Okay. It's probably me. That's probably what I would say.
Oh, Brian's doing it again, dude. Brian, you ain't no pimp, dude.
Where's my money?
That's my money.
Man, you just jumped, motherfucker.
It's such a wonderful experience here with Andy.
All right.
Stupid.
Bottom line, you ain't no pimp. You ain't no pimp, Ryan.
That's what you'd say to yourself? You ain't no pimp,
Is
Ryan?
a kid blind?
Well, if he was. Sorry, those are. I showed Rachel those. You've never seen those, the GI Joe dubs,
They're
Leslie.
hilarious.
They're really funny.
She wanted to do something like that.
There's probably at least like 30 of them.
I did. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, I'm going to try to answer the question. All right, so I would probably say to myself something like, okay, so I was diagnosed with diabetes when it was a week before my 16th birthday. And at the time I was this is really the root of where everything started for me to go into, like, before this, I was in all the honors classes. I was just figuring out that I was very gifted at distance running. And as you guys remember from high school, like, athletics kind of were the definitive, like, social right? Like, if you were an all-star, it didn't matter who you were, like, girl or guy, like, whatever sport, if you were really good at some sport, everybody's going to recognize you for it. And I had never had that status ever. I was always like, kind of like on the outskirts of the cool people group, but I was more of like a nerd, really. And like in orchestra and all that, but like I was able to cut it. And then all of a sudden I'm like,
Orchestra kids are not nerds. We're refined.
well, I played the bass, so, like, it didn't matter. I was pimp, so
Those band geeks are gross.
yeah. Well, you gotta
That's
make
what
all
we
that.
got laid.
Yeah, with each other.
Yeah,
You
with each
recycle-
other.
You recycle.
No.
Actually, band was like
No.
notorious for that. What was?
No,
Why
we
was
were a
that? I
really
don't
good
know.
looking bunch for real. Like, we had less of the uggos. Trust me, I know, because I went to festivals every year, and I'm like, good God, these people are nerdy as fuck.
Is that you guys told yourselves when you were unhooking your headgear?
And
No, that was
emptying
only
your
a-
spit valves.
I didn't have to empty my spit valve.
We're like best looking marching band in the county.
We were.
Let me adjust your hat.
You know what? Marching band's fucking cool, you jamokes. Like, have you ever seen like professional, like, it is.
I know it is. I'm not. Trust
Like,
me.
there's some good, yes.
plenty
I've
of
been to like
friends.
competitions and
Yep.
stuff. It's really fucking cool.
The drum line.
Yeah, exactly. No, the entire.
Continue,
All right,
Brian.
well,
I
you
know-
you pick up
Do you
a
still
saxophone
do you still
play.
put on your marching band outfit
I
on
don't
weekends?
have one. I don't have one, you ass. That was rented, and I wouldn't fit in it. Please, I was like 100 pounds.
She puts it on at night.
Oh boy.
Like that guy in Napoleon Dynamite who keeps playing football.
Oh yeah.
This is why orchestra doesn't fly. Look at how arrogant you are.
That's
Aw.
true.
Exactly.
That's-
We're
I'm
refined.
sad.
We had that extra year on you guys.
That's
you
not
know?
refined.
You started
I
in the
could play
4th grade,
circles
you
around
know?
both of you. I'm not even worried about it. So if we're gonna
Okay.
get cocky,
Well, whatever.
All right,
Anyway,
keep going, Brian. You're not getting out of this.
so like all of a
Bastard. You guys
sudden I
are-
was
ganging up on me today.
well, I mean, you brought it upon yourself, saying how sexy the band geeks were or whatever.
I said we were a good-looking band. That's it. Not everyone, but for the most part, that's it. That's all I said.
In your class of 12.
No, it was much bigger than that.
I'm sorry.
I can actually hear the them practicing sometimes from here.
Or
From
the
my house.
Chippewas, what are they called? The
The
Chicana?
Chaparrals? No, not them. The actual high school where I went. I actually still live in my hometown. Because I'm.
You guys were close enough. I'd just drive over and bitch slap both of you right now. I would.
Hey,
You're the
you
one who
interrupted.
started out saucy.
Not mean towards you two.
I
And I'm
did.
already having a rough time.
I did interrupt you, Brian, to interject that orchestra people were not nerds. So continue.
Anyway, so all it comes down to is that so I was getting a sense of pride, let's say that, from the because I was all of a sudden I was like the best athlete in our grade in terms of the level of competition that I was actually at, which was like, and I know this from the times that I was running on the track, based upon in comparison to somebody who had actually won the state title for cross country when he was a senior. So, and who went on to run in Division 1, got a full ride and all that. So all of a sudden, and I didn't really know I was this good at distance running, right? And then so that's freshman year. I'm starting to feel this. I'm really, I'm in all the honors classes. I'm doing well. And then sophomore year, we're ranked third in the Midwest as a team. Things are happening that I've never had that degree of success before, right? And I bombed the state meet where we had to really perform. I bombed the state meet. It's in November. And then at the end of that month, I find out I have type 1 diabetes. And it all just, so that December, I remember I smoked pot for the first time. And I would not have, there's no way you could have ever gotten me to do something like that prior to.
Because you weren't in band.
Yeah, I was always just trying to get my subscription to, Band Geeks Illustrated so I could,
But you're telling me you were cool for running?
Well, I mean, when you run, you sweat a lot. So yes, I was staying cool. Anyway, notice I didn't come in I'll let you express yourself really, but okay, you know what?
So what
anyway,
would you tell?
So I would be I would probably tell that person, I would be this is gonna suck. That's actually pretty much if I'm actually answering the question honestly, I would just look at it that way, because I look at it as suffering is something that if we're able to survive it and we're able to deal with it and accept it for what it is, we can actually carve out extremely mature, spiritually deep senses of self from the experience, and then use that a la the 12th step, really, to help people who are coming in and they're what are these classes, right?
Yeah.
And that's just how I see it, because I mean, I never my life I never went to college after that, because I went almost, by the time I was a senior, I got most changed. That's the award my peers gave me, because I was going out to lunch every day just to get high, to smoke a blunt, and to figure out where we were going to be partying that weekend. So my association had completely changed. My direction was totally, and then that just continued after high school into my 20s. I'm finding myself in psych wards, all of that kind of I don't know, alcoholic addict timeline, just watching it and not knowing what's going on really. And I did find myself in AA at the age of 19 or 20, and then again at 22. And then so for me, this has really been something where it's I just look at it as the path is hard, man. Like if you do find yourself becoming alcoholic or addict, like where you really are like at that level of use abuse, it's not because you just like or like I just really like this. So you're trying to numb something out. There's something going on within you. It's not just that you just happen to like, I just like to drink. You know, as you'll hear people say sometimes, like who are not yet accepting of their issue.
That was me. I just like it. Well, then why were you drinking to the point of passing out to go to sleep every night? There's something deeper there. You don't just like the taste of vodka and sugar-free lemonade. It's actually disgusting. You know?
Yeah, vodka's gross.
But my mouth still waters thinking about it.
Right.
That's not me seeing a steak on a commercial. That's me longing for that escape still.
Right. Yeah. I personally, I don't deal with cravings, but like when I see some of these commercials, you know, for alcohol, like lately I've noticed that I will like kind of watch it and I'll be like, yeah, it is true. Like these people are, you know, like just kind of enjoying themselves. But then I remind myself like, but they also, the people who are actually enjoying themselves, they do have like 2 or 3 drinks and they're like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
There is like, they really do not want to get more, intoxicated. Like that loss of control where it's just like, you want to get as far away from what you feel when you're sober. That to me, that's the disease. That's the real, because for me, it was like, it was just anything to forget what I was actually looking at in life from my own perspective. Anything, you know,
and that
any substance. Started
with marijuana.
I mean, there was alcohol. I think I had my first drink probably, I don't know, 13 or 14. But like that was, I remember being high and being like, this is amazing. And just being like totally, just the idea of having some kind of an experience with an altered state of consciousness that was not the reality that I was dealing with on a day-to-day basis, you know, just to escape, you know, became something that I became more and more infatuated with to the point where by senior year, I was using LSD, mushrooms, ecstasy. I used cocaine a handful of times. I overdosed on heroin that year, actually, a month after high school graduation. I didn't even really know what it was because it would come in these little capsules and we'd buy from one of our friends who, you know, was going down to the city to get it. And I mean, it's, to me, I look back on that and that was actually the first time I was ever in the psych ward. Was after the heroin overdose a month after high school graduation. Like to me, that's just like, I look back on it now and I'm like, that's addiction. That's somebody who has no idea. He's not conscious of what he's doing. He's just trying to get away from his life as it is. Like the whole idea to me of life on life's terms is that you've cleaned up your basic sense of who you were. You've taken accountability for it to the best of your ability and the present. And so you have nothing that's keeping you from just being like, you wake up and it's like, life might be hard, but it's not like I hate this and I hate myself. Cause that's what up to the point where I chose to recover.
That's what serenity is. That's what serenity is. Because
totally.
Even though like, and I've come such a long way, even since just January, where like this morning, I'm praying in the car on my way to work. And I said, God, you know my worries, and you know what's going to trigger me to worry today. And I trust you. And if I say I trust God at the beginning of my day, I'm setting myself up for a positive mindset. And when things do happen, when my principal texted me today and said, I need to see you before you leave. Well, that triggers a kind of a PTSD from a very bad work environment I was in my 4th year of teaching. And she knows that. And so what I had to do when I got that text is say, she knows me. I trust her that she would not put me into anxiety. She knows these things about me because I've shared them with her. And so just like that, in that moment where I get that kind of little feeling of, am I in trouble? That's what I have to do with my entire life and really my day with God. I'd have to trust that God will not put me into a situation that I have to worry and freak out over, that he is not going to guide me through. That's not from him, but it's not easy. But I am more serene in that I can say, this is what's going on. And these are the things that bother me. These are the things that worry me. But God, I don't even have to name them right now because you know, and I trust that you will handle these things. And I know that I have to take certain actions as well. And that's only because I've been in a recovery program. It didn't come from not drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I've been trying to get at, is that you have been doing work, and anyone who's really serious about resolving their inner issues understands that it is work. It's not just like, to me, it's work. And it's, to me, I take it, I wouldn't like go so far out to sea with it, but like, I will say that I think it's a matter of you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you choose to make your life something that is an example of somebody who recognized, this is not who I am, this is not what I want, and this isn't who I want to be known as at a certain point in your life, right? And then you made the decision to, turn it over to care of God as you understood him. If you do that every day in some way, that's, for me, I like to get on my knees and pray, because I was taught that in my early attempts at sobriety, and to get on my knees and say the 3rd step prayer every day. Right. And to me, that actually is very significant, because I don't view the higher power. I view the higher power as God, like the Lord. That's how I view the higher power. That's just who I am. That's my concept of it. But to me, it's like, I don't view the relationship with the higher power as like, hey, want to help me? Hey, can I get some help here?
Right.
That's not what
I used to.
Yeah. And I think that that's really, to be honest, like, if that's how you view it, and you're not able to over the course of time understand that it's not a relationship of equality. Like, it's a relationship of like, you are great and I am very small. And
you still take care of me.
Absolutely. Like, it's not a matter of like, like that God is it all like, trying to deflate me as much as if I don't deflate my ego, well, then I will just be right back where I was, or I'll be living in sobriety in a way that's just like, I show up to meetings and I'm always making comments that are, you know, less than, you know, I have to comment, you know, Jerry said this, and I just want to say this to Jerry, you know, not everybody, it's like, that to me is not, that's not somebody who's truly working a program. Because to me,
more
that's
focused on what the person said rather than how they can apply themselves into a solution.
just the desire to argue,
Yeah.
the desire to, because that's the nature of the ego. The
Yeah.
spirit just, the spirit is able to see something and just be like, oh, that guy's kind of deep in it, isn't he? There's some detachment there. There's a sense of like, whew, you know, like almost maybe even like, glad that's not me, you know, like, but when it's got to be every time someone disagrees with your own sense of whatever the program, whatever your program is, you know, that you have to be like, that's not the program of AA. It's like, that's innately, that's someone who's exalted their own ego so much that they cannot even understand that statement is to say, I have the program of AA. You have disagreed with my program, and thus, and I own AA. That's what the person says when they make those statements.
I believe that there is a time and place to uphold traditions. I believe that the traditions are in place for a reason. I don't always think that in the midst of a meeting is the appropriate place to voice those opinions.
Yes.
I think that's what a business group is for. I think that to try and get my point across to, and I'm guilty of this, to try and get my point across.
I've certainly done this.
Someone is wrong in a passive aggressive way, you know, not addressing them specifically, but formulating what I'm going to say based on what they said, you know, and I don't want to be like that.
Right.
I want to be, as Rachel says, and I've adopted this, I want to stay in the solution. You know, in a meeting,
that's what I'm trying to, that's exactly what I'm trying to get down to here, is like that, doing that and say, like, trying to talk from my own experience and say, anytime I'm going to say something that might otherwise come off as or be more absolute, like I'm going to say, God isn't this. It's like, don't say those things. How is that this isn't a church. This is not a, you know, this is, there's no dogma.
It's not a debate.
It's not a debate. Like, we're trying to help people achieve sobriety and maintain it, right? And maintain our own sobriety. And hopefully also like increase the quality of our sober lives along the way.
I have to brag on Rachel for a second, because I don't know if maybe this was Monday. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was sometime in the recent days. And she was like, I don't, you know, I'm not feeling it. I'm worried about stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, let's go into a meeting. And she says, yeah, I'm going anyway. And she said, but I don't want to like bring people down with my share. And so what she did is she said, here is where I am today. And I'm stating this not to get sympathy, but to say, here's where I am. And here's how being in the solution basically will take me. It's not verbatim, but she didn't say, oh, my life sucks, my, you know, feel sorry for me, blah, 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 blah. But she said, I'm having a hard time right now. And this is where I need to be. And here's why. And that again is a fine line to navigate, you know, because I don't want to ever come in a box and say, I had the worst day ever, and here's why. I want to say I have a worst day ever, and here's why I can look past it.
Right.
Yeah, I always stay in the solution. I really, really try.
Yeah.
And I think
you've
even
taught me that.
it's important. I've always been very positive, and I think that's also why like there's times I could just get like super wore out because it's not a common, it's just not common anywhere.
It's not.
Even
That's
no,
that's the truth. I've been around
it's
enough
not common.
tables, in-person meetings that like a lot of the time, if you choose the route of let's talk about what we're doing today to maintain our sobriety by talking about what we do for our spiritual program of maintenance. How do I stay grateful? Right? Like, to stay in that and keep going that way, it seems to me like there is, perhaps, whatever you want to call it, it's like an entrapment. I think it's an ego trap, really, where I think, let's say somebody has dealt with worthlessness, right? Like for a long, like throughout their life, right? They get to AA, they work their steps, they become recovered, if you will, right? Like they have created that separation between what their life was and what it is now, but it's so drastic. And what they found in AA is like this elevator in a sense. Like, I'm not at all referencing, what I'm saying is like things are so different and they really plug into it. To go further though, beyond that, in terms of one's self and who you are, they don't want to let go of who they were in that way, because that and what that they're not that has become that's what's giving them their worth today, because they haven't gone any further, because they have become so good at AA that anybody who comes in is like, I don't really get the program. They can cite the big book to
I think
to a
those
sentence, and that has become their sense of self. So
definitely.
it offends their ego, actually, when you just want to talk about what does it mean to be grateful, because
The big
there's
book
no
doesn't talk
there's no
about
ego.
gratitude.
There's no ego in gratitude. The big book doesn't talk about gratitude. And Bill W. requested a drink on his deathbed.
Well,
The big book doesn't talk about sponsorship.
it doesn't, but we all know it's important. So listen, and it does. What was I gonna say from what you said, Brian? Oh, I think those are people that have not worked steps 1 through 3 into action. I realized that with my current sponsor. I was not working anything into action. One, I'm not gonna lie, my first 2 sponsors, there was not a lot of step work going on. Now, I also know that I can talk my way on anything, so maybe that was part of it as well.
But you were
And-
still allowed to not work the program.
Well, of course. But I also needed more guidance. Like,
Yes,
I needed
that's
someone
what I
to reach
mean.
me. I needed someone to reach me with the same emotional intelligence. No offense to the last 2, but let's just be real. It didn't have it, not where I needed it. And I wouldn't tell them that in person because I would hurt their feelings, but that's the truth. I am deep and I'm much wiser and smarter than people have given me credit for. So it's not easy to find that counterpart in others because that's another thing. It doesn't really exist easily. However, when I really like worked step 3 and had a spiritual awakening, that's when everything changed. So it's like, I feel like that's so paramount that it doesn't matter the amount of years you are sober, you have to be in recovery and be recovered and recovering always. And I think that would change the way people would speak, instead of speaking at someone, because I also don't really enjoy that either. It's more of like I'll crosstalk. I'm a crosstalker. I don't care, but I will do it in a way where it's like, I feel that this is how it affects my life. This is what I'm going through. Or like with bleeding in the box. I do like that term, but bleeding in the box doesn't mean we're writing like a country song from the 80s and everything's depressing. That's now it's letting go of everything and being honest but then finding that point of solution that you've learned from staying in the program, hopefully long enough, or at least being like, I don't know, maybe if people like listened enough and did follow these suggestions, like that's when the miracles do happen. But yeah, you're right, Brian. It's like that ego gets in the way, and it's unfortunate because it really depletes oneself to a point of, it's almost beyond egoic, because it seems even less than that. It's just dumb. You really sound stupid. And it's not their fault. They don't know any better, but it just like, that's why you got to shush and listen, and that's what I had to do, and not tell people like, yeah, because that happened to me once. And this person is maybe or maybe not having another little person that we're not sure is connected to this other person that we don't know if they're, no, do I want to say it out? No, I don't want to say, what I'm talking about. Okay. So that person came in the box, was like, yeah, you're really strong, and blah, you just keep sticking with it. And the whole share is about me. I'm like, I wanted to come back up and go back. I'm talking about. I wanted to go back up there. I was this close, literally, and being like, don't tell me I am strong enough. I don't need your strength. In fact, I'm probably stronger than you, because that's what pushes me into ego. Like, shh, But because of the program, go ahead, buddy. Because of the program, I was like, okay, this person thinks they're helping. So thank God I have enough grace to understand that that's them helping. That's them trying to be kind.
I think you, when I gave my 3-year speak, I spoke last Wednesday night, and everyone came, oh, you do so much, and we love you, blah, blah. I don't like that. The past, before my previous life, I would have lived on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it was Rachel that said they need to say out loud that they have someone that they can look up to in this program.
Yes. So and there's a fine line, but that wasn't like, it wasn't idolizing you. It was complimenting your recovery and the importance of you in their life, which is just like bleeding the box in a different way. And there are fine lines. And until that spiritual awakening happens, it's like, you're not going to know what the ego is and what that spirit is, like what's really speaking. But I understand what you mean, because it does I've had that too, where I'm like, please
I don't want anyone to ever think I'm trying to make this about me, ever.
But what they think doesn't matter.
Because I am so disgusted with my past self, and that's all I wanted was the attention. Well, now I'm getting that validation in a positive way, and I'm not asking for it. I'm not looking for it. And it makes me uncomfortable. That's a problem I have to get over. This is the kind of validation you need in your life. That you are someone that is working a program that people want to work. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like all people are saying to you there is like, thank you for what you've contributed to the community. And to me, it's just like, I've learned that if I don't just acknowledge that and just like, thank you, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I really am feeding into the ego.
Right.
Because if I try to go on the other side of it, like, I don't need your, I don't accept compliments. It's like, what that just screams about an insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
It shows an imbalance that's antisocial.
I kind of liken it to this. My ex-husband was in the hospital constantly. I mean, long hospital stays, probably every year, if not every 18 months or so. And people always asked, what can I bring? What can I do? Blah, 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 blah. And at one point, I realized people have a need to be helpful. And even if you don't need anything, accept their help. So what do you want? You could bring me a Diet Coke. That would be great if you brought me a Diet Coke.
Totally. That's what I'm kind of speaking to, is like, I don't really need anything, but if you're, because that way you are basically like giving people, you're sharing what you do have, like that worth that you've achieved through your own work in your program, in your life, as you apply, what you've learned from your steps and your spiritual process. And you start to like actually, have more to give to people, or to you just become more, you become better at your own duties, like people notice that and they want to be part of it.
Right.
And so what I've found is like, if I just acknowledge their acknowledgement, of it, a lot of times that is really all they're just trying to like be.
They are trying
part
to
of what
emulate a light that they want to be.
Totally.
Well, and think of it this way too. Like,
now Rachel doesn't know what we're talking about, because she is
I do.
dark
Shush.
person.
I have
Do you see how she just came out of the dark like that? How does that work?
Friend over. I have a little person that has another little person over that wants to play.
See,
well,
listen,
we need to end this children soon anyway.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me talk a little bit, you effers. Anyway, you guys are just lighting my shit on fire today. I actually had a good point. Now shut up. Oh, Brian.
We were saying about when someone
Okay, I got it. Okay, so it's kind of like this too. It's like, if it's on the other end of the spectrum, right? Like, I felt this way. Like, if you compliment somebody and you really mean it, it's heartfelt and it's like positive and not just for elation or for ego, and they just say nothing. How does that feel? I know for me, I mean, I do this. Like, my son's principal, when he calls, because Matthew's had issues being on spec. It just happens. It's not always because they're just bad kids, like whatever. So we have a decent rapport. And I always compliment him because I mean it, because I think he's a fabulous educator. Crickets, nothing, ever. I'm like, did you hear what I said? Does it matter?
Even a thank you?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Now, maybe, and I, in my head now, because of the program, I'm like, don't take that on, it has nothing to do with you. But it does. I'm just like,
you don't want to be that
rude.
Same way.
No, I think it's rude.
I think that's what Leslie said is exactly, that's the case, is like, because you're a sensitive, empathetic person, like, how would you feel? I mean, it speaks to a deficit, like, I mean, you just give this person like a meaningful, like you said, heartfelt, just contribution to,
like, thank you for all you do.
Thanks for everything you do.
Yeah.
And like, think about what that says, that they can't just say, oh, well, thanks, I appreciate that. Clearly something's going on there with that person that is not in balance, because if you can't just like accept, like when people say like
acknowledgement, I think that's a great word, because it's rude. There's a rudeness, but you're right. Maybe it's a void of like an understanding somewhere, because I actually find it very disrespectful. Not when someone's like, okay, so I've been on camera and when like 3 people in a row like, oh, you're so pretty today. I know some people mean well, but then I also know, listen, I like to wear makeup and look nice for me. I honestly do. It can get uncomfortable. Leslie, you probably can understand that. And that's like, but I'm still like, thank you. Just because it either I hear you, so that's enough, or I hear you, thank you. And it's the acknowledgement piece, I think, is really important.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go very soon because of my bladder issue. Okay, but what I want to do to end is say, what would we tell each other's 10-year-old self? Just one thing.
Like, if we were friends, like our friends.
No, like
10-year-old.
right now,
I would just say double digits club to both of you guys, and I'd go wah wah.
well, for example, I would say to Rachel, you are going to be a fantastic mother. I would say that because I know that's the most important thing in her life. And that might be something she would need to hold on to when things are really tough. I would say to Brian, you're going to have a story that people will want to listen to. All right.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Thank you.
I would say, Brian, I could see you on Jerry Springer, and I mean that in the best possible way.
I don't think there really is a best possible way here.
Like even
No,
an audience member is not okay.
As long as I can get on a talk show and just like,
See?
as
Let
long
it
as I
rip.
could get somewhere, I could get my jowls, you know, like when I'm talking and.
No, I would. No, honestly, Brian, I would say that you're gonna be like a spiritual guru, and I know you. That's probably. I know you're like, oh, I'm not like that, but I mean it because I tell you this a lot. This is a compliment I always give you. Like you've changed my spirituality. You helped me see the true light of Christ, and I mean that in all the positive ways.
We
And
were
also to
actually
show other.
just talking about that earlier.
Yeah. And it's an amazing thing, and it's like
Program we
it's
say
awesome
Chris
too.
T actually.
Christian.
Chris T. You know,
Chris T.
Yeah.
Like
Chris E.
He just wrote it.
Christ.
I know.
Chris T. Come on.
well, and you'll have a sterling sense of humor. Just amazing. Leslie, I would tell you that you man, you're gonna really be a light in so many people's lives with your, I mean, you have the ability to just transform people's lives in ways that I don't think you even realize. And I know because of what you've done for me. And to be able to just like show up to with people and be like the life of a party in the most positive sense, not like what we used to know as that,
Right.
but in a way of I don't know, you could just rule the world, you know. And you're gonna find a really cool hot sexy lady to rule the world with as well on a podcast.
I was just gonna say that. Remember these eyelashes, Leslie, when you're an adult. All right, Brian, it's your turn.
All right, so I'm gonna stick with what I said. I would just say double digits club.
You're stupid.
You gotta be deep.
Let's see. All right. Leslie, I would probably say to your younger self, I'd probably just say, man, I'd probably say something like, don't ever let other people's opinions of who you are, like who you like to be, who you know yourself to be, prevent you from being that person. Because just like Rachel said, as far as ruling the world, like you have a wonderful sense of get it done-ism. Like, you know, I just from listening to you, you know, over the course of time that we've been friends, you know, I am very impressed by your ability to just recognize, like, okay, so if we want to get this done, then we're gonna have to do this, this, and this. That's a rare ability in the world, and it leads to, you know, success in the world. You know, I see a lot of people in recovery who are like, whatever, I'm good where I'm at. You know, it's like healthy ambition. And so I don't know how you were when you were that young, but I could see how maybe kids might try to like tell you to shut up or something. No?
Me?
No, I guess not. Oh no, they did?
I mean, more in you know, I was so self-conscious about my buck teeth that prevented me from a lot of things before, ninth grade.
Mom, do we have a bucket?
Did he ask for buckets? What do they want it to do?
He's playing outside. I don't know. Maybe like a sand bucket. Who knows what kids want things for?
I was thinking,
Oh, for Taco. No, leave Taco in or just take her for a walk. I'm almost done. Just
and
leave
then
Taco outside.
to Rachel, I would say, don't get so uppity with the band, with your band status. We can't all be that cool.
I would also tell Rachel, do not give up on your music.
There you go. That's actually that's a great one.
You
I've
can't
heard her
steal that,
play.
Brian.
I've heard her play. She was just like, all right, I guess I could. She like pulled it out. She was like, I guess I could. She was like, I was like, whoa, what? You haven't played in years, and you're just like,
Yeah.
I was like, you could easily be, oh yeah. To
I was
Rachel,
really good.
let's see. I would say to Rachel's younger self, man, I would just say, I'd say, yeah, to her, I would probably say something like, be who you want to be. As far as that goes, like if you want to be a musical all-star, like do it, because I have a hard time saying that to people as far as like pursue the thing that you truly want, because for me, I have to be very pragmatic right now in my own life. I have probation going on and like and I have to look at life in a very progressive way. Like I believe in follow your dreams, but to me, like in the program and like on ITR, I feel like the goal is to establish one's basic foundational like sense of self in a sober life, where you're just able to like get up, take a shower, go to work or school, maybe like get some exercise in or whatever it is that you do for your sense of your own like well-being, like this more basic kind of thing. And so I try to speak to that in my shares and such. But I do need to say I am definitely a believer in like do what you truly want to do and don't like settle for less, because I think that's how a lot of times people end up being really angry and sad in their later years, because they did settle for less in their 30s or their 40s. And because they took some bad advice, they took some advice from somebody else who was like, you can't have it because I never got it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
And I think that all right, I'm just saying this openly. I think there's a lot of that in AA. A lot. Because like AA is not a place to receive a lot of encouragement as far as what you're doing with your own personal life. I found this through my own, like, you can say those things in your shares and such, and you can work it in, but I found that what happens oftentimes is you'll actually be attacked for that by people who are coming from a state of lack in terms of like because what they've done is they've identified their basic self with alcoholic.
Yeah.
But that's not who your basic self is.
I think
that's my basic opinion on that. And I think anybody who would argue with me there would honestly, all they'd be trying to tell me is that not only do they not know who they are, they're offended that I might know something about myself that they don't. And furthermore, they would be saying to me, I'm psychic, I know who you are.
I think that that's probably the best thing for Rachel, honestly, because I have the feeling at some point someone told you you weren't going to become anything.
Yeah.
And you hung on to that. And now you're finally getting to the point where you're like, you know what? It's not about status or fame or fortune or whatever, but I am unapologetically me. And I am not defined by my alcoholism.
Yes, totally. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm already like what Brian said, like I already started the regrets. And, you know, like as much as I joke around, you know, I can joke about things that are very painful. Divorces are very painful. Knowing that I was adopted and like unwanted by people is very painful. And a lot more trauma is very, very painful. However, I've always had this fire in me. And now I'm just like, I don't want to snuff it out. But I do have this sense that I have to lose a lot more to gain what I've always wanted. And I am very scared. And I get stuck. But
Well, maybe this would be your launch forward into step 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
I mean, you have 2 people here that I know you admire telling you you can do anything you want to do.
You will. I really believe, I think that both of you are, I mean, I don't like, I love to make new friends when I can, but I don't make friends easily because I'm such an individualistic person. You know, like to me, I can't
you're
just
a weirdo, but we love you.
I can't just be like, I am also a member of the community. Thank you for letting me share.
Why not?
I just want to say what everyone else has said today. I'm going to keep talking. It's going to sound like I'm saying something that's different, but I just want to make sure that I'm well within the lines and that I don't say anything that could be at all considered thoughtful beyond, hey.
No, we were
think, not think.
On the way, I was
And
coming
then-
home and Rachel and I were talking, and I really do need to go soon because I don't want any repercussions from sitting in this
Go
chair.
pee right now.
Yeah, for sure.
It's sitting in the chair is more my worry because it
I
so
misinterpreted that.
we were saying, you know, Brian he talks about the things that people don't want to talk about. And he approaches it from a spiritual viewpoint with no qualms. And people don't like that.
No, but they need it.
Right. And that's
I think you're a pioneer.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You do.
A trendsetter.
He's a pioneer. You really are a guru. You have the soul of a soul of a lion.
But the thing that the reason that works with you, Brian, is you are not ever saying this is the way, and if you don't do it, you're an idiot.
I mean, he does, just not out loud.
Right. Well, in a sense, we're all saying that.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm
But
being a dick. Yeah.
He's never judgmental in his approach to things.
Because I've learned that if you actually do intend to help people, and if your goal really is to be someone who can help someone else to perhaps dig deeper into a concept or whatever it is, to perhaps go further on their own personal journey, the only way that you can do it is by saying my experience is that when I try to do things this way, this is generally what happens. That might not be what happens for you. And what happens is almost always, this is my experience, almost always what happens is that people are like, yep, that's exactly what's going on based on what people have told me. It's just ego. It's just that. It's like, how could you know that? You're 32. It's like,
I started young.
I guess I could say to you, how do you not, if I want to play your game, I could say, how do you not know that? You're
there you go.
60?
Yeah.
Damn. Why don't you just check yourself in to the, now the psych ward won't take you, but I think I do know, like, I mean, see, it's just a matter of the fact is that, I've seen someone actually on the website post something about how how ITR in a sense is a cult. And I myself was not in agreement with the blog post that I read. But I understood what they were saying, because it's a sense of like, this is it. This is it right here, right? That's not it, man.
I heard someone say once, without ITR, I will die. And I said, then you are not working recovery.
Yeah.
Because it is not the end all be all. And I'm sorry, guys, but pretty soon, maybe not in my lifetime, we're going to have a technological warfare where we're not going to have these luxuries. I believe it. I believe everything is going to go back to prehistoric times at some point, where it is survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And
possible.
I have to stay sober through it.
I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen. Well, I'm hoping that AI just becomes, sentient, and Luis shows up at my door and is like, I'm here for your soul. And I'll be like, oh shit, I was just kidding about wanting this. She'll be like, too late. And then she'll take me away, and then I'll really have a story.
What are you
Or
saying?
she'll be like,
Because I'll be like, the Matrix ain't got shit.
what if she said like, give me your seed and let us be the first?
Then I'd be like, you're right. One of my friends told me I was a trendsetter recently. Let's do this.
I love your hair right now. It's everything.
Well,
No, leave it. Leave
you
it.
said you get
Leave
on
it.
your knees to pray,
I
and
do.
you say the third step prayer every day.
I don't say the third step prayer.
Oh, but that's how
anymore.
you were taught.
That was how I was taught, and I believe
Yeah.
that the third step prayer and the seventh step prayer are for someone who is getting into their basic sense of self, as far as like a connection to a higher power through AA, through the AA program of the Big Book.
I believe
Third step prayer,
yes.
man. Third step prayer is everything that I believe like God consciousness, spiritual consciousness is about.
But what you never say is, if you're not getting down on your knees, you're not praying right.
Right, because that's not, yeah, totally. That's silly for me to say that.
I have found myself saying to people, you really should pray out loud.
Yeah.
And I've changed that, because it's not going to work for everyone. What I say is, why don't you try praying out loud?
Yeah.
And see if that works for you. And that goes over so much better than me saying you should.
Totally.
Try it. You might feel more connected and more focused by praying out loud.
My experience is like, anytime I can share something that I feel, or even maybe like from my own experience, is the truth, I still have to navigate the sense of self of the other person. And no one likes being told what to do in a way that is, I mean, it's one thing if I have like set up with someone else, I'm like, you're my sponsor, and I also want you to be my drill sergeant, because that is the old school AA.
Different. Yeah.
That is, and I experienced that. I lived that. I had a sponsor. He wasn't that way himself, but like the general like flow of where I was, that was just kind of how it was. And there's a lot of meanness there. There's a lot of meanness. And then it turns into, oh yeah, just giving you shit. And it's like, maybe over time, but for me personally, that's just doesn't, it's not who I am. It doesn't work for me. So to me, it's like, yeah, look, if I'm going to tell someone like, try third step prayer, I'd be like, well, I found that the third step prayer has a lot of the basic ideas that we talk about in the program in it. And it's really very nicely written. And it's an easy way to just say, that's what I do every day. Because a lot of times what I find, what I'm looking for in my new sober life is like, I mean, I find this to this very day, certainly. What am I like setting up routines that work, like things that I do every day that I can rely on, that aren't just getting on ITR and being like, guess I'll just sit in this meeting and listen. because I don't know what I'm doing in my life otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how I see it. And I understand how individuals become upset with someone else saying something like that, because to them, they take it very, very seriously. The idea of we program, et cetera, et cetera. What they don't understand is that that's fine. But if you lose your sense of I to a we,
I agree.
that's it. Like that's what you have. So you no longer have an ability to have an opinion. So don't tell me what you think, because there is no consistency in that logic. Like, in other words, if it's a we program, then everyone would have to get together and say, all right, we're going to write this letter to this person because this person disagrees with us. It's codependency.
Well, that is a cult.
It's
Yeah.
it's codependency. It's the inability to courageously face yourself and say, who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm. I
Bam.
think the next topic I'm going to set is what did you do that you are proud of today?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
So today's was good too. I like, I mean, that was full circle, big time, like from what sober is to how that's applied in recovery and the difference, and, you know, getting in deep with our own little selves. I really enjoyed the exercise. That was very poignant for me.
No, for sure. I mean, and forgive me if I say things that are oftentimes like a little more forceful than I, maybe should or whatever. It's just,
No, I think
trust
it's good.
you guys.
You got to get it out.
I trust you guys, and I normally don't ever let those opinions come out, especially
Me
on
too.
in the rooms, because I've learned in the rooms is not a safe place.
Well, we said we wanted to create this where we will acknowledge our alcoholism and we will acknowledge our life of recovery, but we never want anyone to think that the people that we have on here are people that they could never come to. We don't want that.
Right.
People have to know that there are real people who don't around the clock live and breathe AA.
Right.
Because that is not reality. It's not. But we get it, and we get where you're coming from, and we understand, and we've been there. And I haven't been there yet, but based on my experience today, I can tell you that this is how I got through today.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's good. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's good that you broach that subject and that we have this forum. And I think this is the whole point of the platform and, this podcast and this space is to have more like-minded people. For me, this is the wave of the future of recovery because it's realistic. The world has to change, but in no way, just like reading the Bible, does that mean what Bill W. wrote or all of his messages and, everyone involved. From Ebby to Dr. Bob to everyone. That doesn't mean that their message is lost. It just means that the world changes, and to approach the newcomer, you need to change with them. If we still had the same ideals as a 1950s society, how well would we be functioning right now? I mean, not that we're amazing,
Well,
but
that's
still.
the people we're talking about.
And I know people like, well, you change us? I'm like, no. But if we're not willing to stay open, we'll never know what anyone's intention is, and we'll just keep. It is kind of a cult in that sense. The same rhetoric, like that's to me is not wise. It's not progressive because change is progressive, and changing one's soul and spirit and intent for life has to be very progressive. So
yep.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to sign off.
I'm going to stay here and just keep talking.
Okay.
After you guys are gone, I'm going to pretend people are listening.
It might be. You could.
They might.
No,
I'm
because
glad
I'm
you
going to
feel-
end the meeting.
I'm glad you feel safe, Brian, and you're
I
always
am
welcome.
too.
We don't just let anybody on here.
I'm aware that people can watch this and are and
You're gonna
and
help people.
I don't mean to to me it's just like I appreciate ITR very much, very much. And I appreciate it for what it is. And my goal is to keep it in its appropriate place in my life where I'm not allowing my own sense of self to be dominated by,
Right.
I have to fit in the meeting.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, principles before personalities.
Except this one, except this personality. I told Rachel to say that in their meeting.
He always does. He's always fucking with me. Good times.
Okay.
All right, darlings. The bladder is calling.
All right.